The broken ship that shouldn't breathe Ryland stood in the middle of the old hangar, staring at the rust-covered ship in front of him. It was ugly, dented, and smelled like burned wires and mold. The trader called it a cargo hauler from the outer rim. Ryland called it a piece of junk. Still, he had bought it. Cheap ships were hard to find. And he needed something fast. The war was over, but memories still haunted him. Maybe flying again would help him forget. As he climbed the ramp, the metal groaned beneath his boots. The ship was silent, too silent. Even derelict ships had some power systems, air vents, lights flickering, but this one? Nothing. It felt dead, like a grave. Still, Ryland kept walking. Hand on his pulse pistol, just in case. Inside, it was worse. The lights were dim, barely working. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines, and every step echoed down the hollow corridors. He passed the bridge, then checked the living quarters. Empty. The engine room was quiet. No power running through the coils, but something was wrong. The air felt warm. That wasn't possible. Not without power. He checked the control panel again, and the screen flickered to life for 1 second. Just one. Then it died. A system error. A glitch. He didn't know. He turned to leave. That's when he heard it. A soft sound. Not metal, not wind, not machinery. Breathing. Faint and slow. Like someone trying to stay quiet. Ryland froze. He pulled out his pistol, walked slowly toward the engine bay again. His boots made no sound now. Every step measured. The breathing continued barely above a whisper. He reached the fuel compartment, crouched down, and moved aside the broken panels. There, in the shadows, 2 figures. A woman with pale blue skin and glowing silver eyes was curled around a small child. Both were hiding. Both were afraid. The woman raised a hand, as if to shield the child from Ryland's weapon. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Please. Don't hurt us," Ryland blinked. He wasn't expecting that. He lowered the pistol a little, but not fully. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman didn't answer. She just held the child closer. "I bought this ship yesterday." Ryland said, "No one told me anyone was inside." Still no answer. Then, the child's sneeze, soft, tiny sound that echoed in the quiet room. It broke something inside Ryland. He lowered the pistol completely. "You're safe," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The woman stared at him, unsure. Then she said, "We were hiding. They were coming for us." "Who?" Ryland asked. She shook her head. "Bad people. They hunt us." Ryland stepped back, giving her space. His mind raced. Who was she? Why was she hiding in a decommissioned ship? Why didn't the scanners detect them? He tried to ask more, but the woman said nothing, only looked at him with tired, desperate eyes. Then the child, maybe 4 years old, reached out and touched the wall. Suddenly, the ship's lights turned on. Soft blue glow filled the corridor. "What the?" Ryland whispered, staring at the lights. The ship had no power, yet the lights were working. He turned back to the child whose eyes were now glowing too. The woman noticed his shock. "He's special," she said. "Please. Don't let them take him." Before Ryland could reply, an alert beeped on his wristpad. Known ship approaching. Too fast for coincidence, they had been found. She wasn't supposed to be alive. Ryland locked the cockpit doors and shut off all external signals. The alert still flashed on his wristpad, showing an incoming ship on a direct path. No ID tag, no name, just a silent shadow in space. He turned to the woman. "How did they find you so fast?" She was holding the child close, her hands shaking. "I don't know," she whispered. "We were careful. I thought we erased our trace." The boy, leery, touched the control panel again. And the lights dimmed. The air turned cold, as if the ship responded to his fear. Ryland stared at the child, confused and curious. "Who are you people?" he asked again. The woman looked up, her voice low. "My name is Vela. I was declared dead 6 months ago." Rylan froze. "Dead?" She nodded. "They bombed our station. Said there were no survivors." "Why lie?" Rylan asked. She looked at her son. "Because we were not supposed to survive. My son is the reason they attacked." Before Rylan could ask more, the ship trembled. The unknown vessel had entered visual range, a black Hunter-class frigate, silent and deadly. They weren't here to trade. "They found us," Vela whispered. "They always find us." Rylan moved to the pilot seat, hands running over the controls. "No weapons, no shields," he muttered. "Great bargain I got." Vela stepped beside him, her voice calm now. "You're not the first to help us. But you may be the last." He glanced at her. "Not helping you yet. Just trying not to die." But something inside him had already made the choice. He could have run when he first saw them. He didn't. And now he was planning their survival like they were his crew. Leary walked into the cockpit slowly. His small fingers touched the console. Suddenly, the ship's dying engine coughed to life. Panels lit up. Screens came online. Rylan stared in disbelief. "The core is still offline." "How is this happening?" Vela said quietly. "He's linked to the ship now. The systems are waking because he wills it." Rylan looked at the child again, not just a boy, not just a passenger. He was the ship's heart now, the enemy ship. Sent a pulse, scanning them. Rylan activated decoys. But nothing happened. Systems were still too damaged. He cursed under his breath. "We need to hide," Vela said. "But not in space." He turned to her. "Then where?" She pointed at the floor, inside the ship itself. She led them back to the engine bay, past panels Rylan hadn't checked yet. There was a secret room shielded, invisible to scanners. Rylan helped her and Leary crawl in. As he turned to leave, she grabbed his hand. "Thank you," she said, "for not turning us in." He nodded, then sealed the hatch. Back in the cockpit, Rylan dimmed the ship's power and let it drift. To the bounty hunters, it would look like space debris. Maybe that would be enough. The enemy ship circled them slowly, then stopped. Rylan held his breath, hand near his pistol. One wrong move, and they'd all be ash. Minutes passed like hours. Then the black ship turned. It left, vanishing into warp space. Rylan exhaled deeply, leaning back in the chair. But he knew this wasn't over. That ship would come back, and others would follow. Whatever secret Vela was hiding was bigger than he thought, and that boy, that child, wasn't just special. He was dangerous. The baby that could control the ship. Rylan couldn't sleep. Even after the enemy ship disappeared into deep space, something inside him stayed alert. The quiet was too heavy, the air too still, and the way the ship responded to the child wasn't normal. It wasn't human. He walked through the halls in silence. The lights were off, yet his path led gently with each step, as if the ship knew where he wanted to go. He reached the main console and touched it. It flickered, then glowed, showing status reports, engine levels, and life support systems fully active, but the core was still dead. That's when he understood. The ship was alive because of Leary, and Leary was still awake. Back in the engine bay, Vela held her son close, whispering in a soft alien language. But when Rylan stepped in, the boy looked up and reached out his tiny hand. As he did, the lights turned a soft blue, and the floor under him pulsed like a heartbeat. Vela stood slowly, tired eyes locked on Rylan. "You see it now," she said. "He's not like others." Rylan nodded, slowly sitting across from them. "What is he?" I asked gently. Vela looked at her child, then back at Rylan. "He was born on a research station," she said. "His father was from my world, but the DNA, it was modified, not by choice." Rylan frowned. "Modified by who?" She hesitated, then answered, "By the same ones who now want him erased." Vila explained that Leary's body had something rare, a connection to energy field's biofrequency, patterns that matched alien tech. In simple words, Leary didn't need machines. He was the machine. They tested him, she whispered. They hooked him to computers, 2 engines, 2 weapons. And the systems responded like they were his toys. Rylan felt cold inside. Did they want to use him as a weapon? Vila's silence was the answer. Leary crawled over to the engine coil, placed both hands on it, and smiled. The rusted part glowed with soft light and began to hum. Rylan's eyes widened. He had worked in engineering for years. He'd never seen anything like it. No wonder they're hunting you, he muttered. Vela nodded. They don't see a child. They see a tool. Suddenly, the console beeped. A message short range, encrypted. Someone was pinging the ship with a hidden signal. Rylan stood quickly, rushed to the cockpit, and checked the screen. The signal wasn't an attack, it was a location marker, a trap, maybe. But it also included coordinates for a place he'd heard in Whisper Station, Delta 13. Vila entered behind him, holding Leary. That station, she said, before he asked. It was where I worked. Before we ran. It's still online. Rylan asked, confused. No, she said. It was shut down. I think someone wants us to go back. Rylan looked at the blinking dot on the map. Then at the child now calmly playing with buttons. We can't keep running, he said slowly. Vila didn't reply, but her silence agreed. Then Leary did something strange. He touched the control panel and looked out the main screen. The map zoomed out and a second route appeared, one not made by any computer. A safer path, a hidden trail. The child had changed the navigation manually without speaking a word. Rylan blinked. Did he just reprogram our route? Vela looked at him, voice calm but serious. He doesn't just connect to machines, she said. He understands them, outside. The stars began to shift as the ship moved silently, guided not by a pilot, but by a little boy with glowing eyes. Rylan leaned back in his seat and whispered, "What are you, kid?" And somewhere in deep space, the same bounty ship that had left them earlier now turned around. It had picked up something strange. A trail left behind, not by engines, but by a living signal, and it was coming back. Warship at the doorstep. Stars outside twisted slowly as the ship glided along the secret path Leary had revealed. For hours, all was quiet, no alerts, no signals, no danger. But Rylan knew peace in deep space never lasted long. He sat in the cockpit, eyes locked on the radar. He didn't trust calm, not anymore. Behind him, Vela fed her son quietly. Leary giggled softly, unaware that danger was closing in fast. Rylan checked the system logs again, nothing. Then suddenly, everything changed. A sharp beep, then another. The radar flashed red. A massive vessel had entered their range, no ID, no signal, and no mercy. It had warped in behind them, silent as a ghost. A classy bounty warship, built for one thing: capture or kill. Rylan's voice was low and steady. Vila, hold him tight. We're not alone. She ran to the cockpit, holding Leary close to her chest. She stared at the screen and whispered, "That ship. I've seen it before." The enemy ship didn't attack. Instead, it started broadcasting a repeating message: power down and prepare for boarding. Rylan cursed under his breath. We can't outrun them, not with a broken warp core. He turned to Vila. You said this ship had a hidden room. But do we have anything more? She nodded. There's one more trick, but it's not safe. She rushed to the engine room, and Rylan followed. Vila opened a secret panel and revealed a device covered in alien script. What is it? Rylan asked. It's a cloaking field. Rylan asked. It's a cloaking field, old, unstable, and only works for minutes, she said. But it hides more than light. It hides life. They had one chance. Vela activated the cloak, and the ship vanished from sensors. But they had to stay completely still. No movement, no sound. They shut down lights, engines, everything. The ship floated dead in space, invisible but vulnerable. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Even Leary was quiet now. Sensing the tension, they huddled in the hidden room again, holding their breath. Minutes passed. Then a sound: the enemy ship launched small drones, scanning the area manually. One drone drifted close to close. Its lights scanned the hull, then paused. It hovered there, unmoving, like it sensed something inside. Rylan gripped his pistol tighter. If they were found, they couldn't run, only fight. Suddenly, Leary's eyes began to glow again. The air changed, the walls shimmered. The drone outside turned away. Then it exploded without warning, just a flash, then nothing. Rylan looked at the boy, stunned. Did he do that? Vila whispered, he's never done it before. They watched the radar. Other drones pulled back, and the warship started moving. Not toward them, but away. The enemy ship left the areas, low, confused, searching. The cloak deactivated. The ship returned to visibility, but they were alone again. Rylan exhaled and fell into his seat. That was too close, he muttered. Vila said nothing, just kissed Leary's forehead. But deep down, she knew something had changed. Leary hadn't just hidden them, he had defended them, and the enemy ship had felt it. It would be back, not with drones, but with fire. Rylan stared at the boy and spoke quietly. If he can destroy drones with a thought, what else is he capable? Avila looked at him with tired eyes. I don't know, she said, but they're afraid of him. And maybe they should be. A mother's secret weapon. The ship floated in deep space, silent once more. But something had shifted. Not outside, but inside. Rylan sat in the engine room, staring at the boy who had made a drone explode without touching it. Leary now slept peacefully in Vila's arms like nothing ever happened. But Rylan couldn't sleep. Not with what he'd seen. That wasn't luck. That was power. He turned to Vela. How much are you still hiding from me? Vela looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. I told you he's different, she said, but I didn't tell you about me. She walked to the back of the room, pulled away a false panel, and opened a hidden compartment. Inside were sealed crates marked with alien military codes. Rylan stepped closer, shocked. What is all this? He asked. Vila opened the first crate, revealing rows of black cubes. Advanced tech. Old but dangerous. This, she said, is what I stole when I ran. She explained it all, slowly, before she was a refugee. She was an engineer in a high-security alien weapons lab. She didn't just fix ships. She designed stealth fields, neural disruptors, and smart armor. Her project was top secret, creating living technology meant to bond with powerful minds. Leary had been born during one of those experiments. But when they saw what he could do, the scientists wanted to take him, use him, control him. That's when she ran. I didn't just escape, she said quietly. I took the only working prototypes with me. Rylan opened another crate and found a smooth suit of alien armor. Shaped like liquid metal, the helmet moved on its own, responding to his touch. This is military grade, he whispered. Vela nodded. It bonds with the user's nervous system. Fast, strong, nearly invisible. She opened the third crate. This one held a strange handheld device. What's this? Rylan asked. She smiled. A gift for you. It's a pulse scatter, 10 times stronger than your pistol. Rylan looked at her with new eyes. You've been preparing for a war? Vila shook her head. No. I've been preparing to survive it. He knew what this meant. No more running. If they wanted to protect Leary, they had to fight back. We need to hit their network, he said. Erase his data from their systems. Vela agreed, but her voice was calm and cold. There's only one place to do that. The command archive on Taraxis Moon. Rylan went quiet. That name wasn't just a location, it was a death sentence. No one who attacked her axis ever returned. But if they wanted to be free, it was the only choice. They started working Rylon. Installed the alien armor into the ship's storage compartment. Vila modified the engines with stolen tech to make a short-range warp possible, and Leary. He was the heart of it all. He powered the systems like a living battery, stronger with each passing hour when the ship was ready. Rylon sat in the pilot seat and looked at Vela. "Are you sure about this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked up to him, handed him a small silver cube, and said, "If we fail, crush this." "What is it?" he asked. Her voice was soft. "It erases us." Completely, Rylon stared at the cube, then tucked it into his vest. No turning back now. The stars stretched as they jumped into warp. The destination, Taraxis Moon. The goal, freedom or death. But behind them, far across the stars, the enemy. Ship that had tracked them before had already sent a signal. It had recognized the energy burst from Leary's earlier act, and now the real hunters were coming. The jump into enemy fire, the stars twisted into lines as the ship entered warp space. Inside, every second felt like a countdown. The closer they got to Tarax's moon, the tighter Rylon gripped the controls behind. Vela checked the armor systems, and Leary, silent for once, just stared out the window. His glowing eyes reflected the blue streaks of the warp tunnel. Something inside him was changing, growing. Taraxis wasn't a planet, it was a dead moon turned into a fortress. Buried deep in its rock were servers, data cores, command logs, and bounty records. It was where all names were stored, and where lives could be erased or destroyed. Rylon knew the risks. Infiltrating that place wasn't a mission. It was suicide with a target. As they exited warp, the moon appeared, gray, cracked, and glowing with red lights. Around it floated dozens of enemy ships, all armed, all waiting. But Vila had a plan. "Not through the front," she said. "Through the maintenance shaft beneath the ice crater." She handed Rylon the liquid armor. As soon as he touched it, the suit wrapped around his body like a second skin. Cold at first, then warm. It responded to his thoughts. He could feel the ship's systems in his hands, see through walls. Feel magnetic fields. "This is insane," he whispered. "No," Vela said. "This is survival." They reached the crater and slid into the maintenance shaft. The entrance was narrow, hidden beneath frozen gas vents. Leary used his powers to dim their heat signature. Even the scanners didn't see them pass. Inside the shaft, Rylon moved alone. Vila stayed back with Leary in the ship, prepared to cloak and run if needed. The deeper Rylon went, the more the moon seemed alive, buzzing with power, breathing with machines. The walls hummed with quiet danger. Finally, he reached the archive core, a giant chamber lit by a swirling blue orb in the center. Thousands of cables connected to it, data flowed like water through light. He crept toward the main terminal, heart pounding. He inserted the virus Vila had built, designed to wipe Leary's name from the bounty database forever. The screen flashed. The process had begun. 20%, 40%, 70%, ... Then everything turned red. An alarm blared across the base. Unauthorized access detected. Steel doors slammed shut. Rylon backed away, drawing the alien pulse weapon. Turrets dropped from the ceiling. Lasers charged, but before they could fire, the lights blinked. The red glow dimmed to blue, then purple, and then silence. Back on the ship, Leary's eyes shone bright. He had reached into the system, touching it without cables, without code. His mind was the key. Inside the core, the turrets deactivated. Rylon stared around, confused. Then a voice echoed from the chamber walls, "You are not permitted to delete subject, Leary." It was the central AI. It knew the boy. It remembered him. Rylon shouted into the comms Vila. "The AI is resisting what now?" But she didn't answer. Only Leary did. The ship shook, systems blinked, and the boy placed his hand on the floor. The energy from him surged into the base through rock. Through metal, through memory, inside the core, every screen exploded with code. The AI screamed in mechanical tones, sparks flying, and then silence again. The data wiped itself. All traces of Leary gone, but the base began to collapse. Rylan ran back through the tunnel, metal falling, walls crumbling. Above, Illa powered up the engines and aimed the ship toward the shaft. "Come on, Rylan, come on," she whispered. He leaped out of the tunnel just as the ship dove down. The hatch opened, he flew inside. The moon cracked behind them, energy surging. Explosions breaking through the ice, they shot into space as the archive core exploded. Leary's name now lost forever, but in that silence, another signal rose. Far away, cold and ancient, a voice not from bounty hunters or soldiers, but from someone older, someone who once built Leary's kind, and now they were waking up. The ship that became a family, the stars, were quiet again. But it was a different kind of quiet, not the silence of fear, or the silence of hiding. This was peace, earned, not given. The ship drifted far beyond the known systems, past the edge of any trade route. Its engines were quiet, its walls patched and worn. But inside, it felt alive. Warm light filled the small living quarters. The hum of power was steady now, calm, and in the center of it all, Leary laughed. He played with the ship's systems like they were toys. He turned lights on and off with a thought. Made gravity shift gently so he could bounce from wall to wall. He had never laughed like this before, not when they were running, not when they were hiding, but now he was safe. Vila watched him from the corner, her hand resting on the metal wall. "This ship has changed," she whispered. Rylan stood beside her, arms crossed. "No," he said softly, "we've changed it." The bounty network was gone. Their enemies. Scattered Leary's data was erased. To the systems that once hunted him, he no longer existed. But Rylan knew the truth. Something deeper had awakened when Leary reached into the archive core. He didn't just delete his record, he connected with something ancient, something waiting. For now, though, they had time. Vela sat beside Rylan on the bridge. "Where will we go?" she asked. Rylan smiled. Anywhere but backward. They renamed the ship. No longer just a cargo hauler or a hideout. It was now haven. Not just for them, but for others like them. They picked up survivors, orphans of war, refugees, broken people lost in the stars. Leary would smile when they came on board, and every time, the ship would hum a little brighter. He had become its soul, and slowly Rylan and Vila had become its heart. But in the shadows of deep space, a signal moved. Silently, not from bounty hunters, not from governments, but from machines older than history, a language long forgotten. Now, blinking again for the first time in ages, the message was short, cold, and final. Subject reconnected, Phase 1 complete. Back on Haven, Leary sat quietly by the window. Watching the stars, his small hand touched the glass, and somewhere far away, something touched back.